Hello and welcome to this video, guys. In this video I want to talk to you about my filmmaking rig that I've been using for the past few months using the Panasonic Lumix S9 and the Nissi Athena 35mm T 1.9. As you can see, it's already built up, but here in a second I'll take everything apart and build it piece by piece and tell you about every single component that I'm using for this build. I do have a couple different variations of this build. This is one of the more built out versions. I have another version that pretty much ditches the top monitor and the top handle so I can have a much smaller setup. So without further ado, let's start taking this thing apart and explaining everything that I'm using. NATO, oh my gosh, why is that so hard to take off? So it's pretty much torn apart. The only thing that's left on the actual body itself is the small rig cage that I'm using, a small rig quarter 20 cold shoe adapter, and the small rig NATO rail with a 15mm clamp. I don't really feel like it's necessary for me to take everything apart because in this configuration you can at least get the gist. The S9 was kind of my dream camera in terms of like a full frame, small, very portable camera. Because before this I had the S5 and I really liked the S5. I just wanted something that was a bit smaller, and so I mean this is essentially an S5 but in just a slightly smaller body because it ditches the viewfinder. There are some compromises to that smaller size, but that's not what this video is about. That's actually going to be in my next video. I'll be doing a first impressions of this filmmaking rig, but in this video, like I said, like the title says, this is just about the build itself. But with that being said, I really do enjoy how small and compact the setup is. It's really easy to throw it in a bag, and it's also really easy to rig it up to my needs. So here we go, the Panasonic Lumix S9 with the smaller cage, a NATO rail with a 15mm clamp, and a cold shoe adapter. Now, first thing, let's put on this guy. This is the Simod PL2L mount adapter. This is one of the more affordable ones on the market, but that doesn't mean it's bad by any means. This thing is so solidly built. I believe I paid $190 for it, which again, considering all the other options on the market, is one of the cheaper ones that you could buy, but it doesn't compromise on the build quality. It's really, really strong and it's really tight. I don't have any play at all with the adapter for the PL mount or the L mount side on the Lumix. So let's take off the cap and let's put this on. I'm really paranoid about getting dust in my sensors. I don't like having my sensors exposed. So here we go. Already, it's looking much, much better. First thing that I want to do before I start putting the lens on is I want to put this base plate on. This is the DPL 100mm base plate. I've been running it for a few months now. I first got this when I bought my Sigma FP. Sigma FP was actually the camera that I owned before this. I got rid of it for this and I have no regrets. So, like I said, we'll be putting the DPL mount or the plate on there. But one thing I want to mention is that with a foot on this adapter, on the PL2L mount adapter, it actually sits a little bit lower than the base of the small rig cage. And so if I were to put this on, it would be a little bit uneven. I don't know if you can see, but there's a bit of a gap. And so my solution to that was just putting a washer underneath the side that mounts to the camera. I just had one laying around in some random bin, so that's what I've been using here. So yeah, I will now attach this to the tripod mount on the adapter itself, and then I will get the washer and attach it to the bottom. I'm going to tighten both sides, make sure everything is nice and tight. Okay, here we go. Sorry. Here we go. So now I have a nice base for my rig. It does add a little bit of stability to the front and back mostly, but even the side to side. And what I really like about this is it takes the strain from being on the camera's mount to instead being more reinforced on the PL adapter. So then again, this way I'm not stressing out the mount on the S9. The weight can be more evenly distributed. It's not that like this lens is necessarily super heavy, but with how far it hangs out, I just don't want to put any stress on the PL or the native L mount on the camera. So next thing, let's go ahead and mount this lens. So I will open this up. That will come down. Take off the PL mount on here. there's a hair, and line it up right there, and let's lock it in place. Okay, there we go. Now moving on to the next thing. This has been one of my favorite purchases that I've had, and I also got it for a pretty good price. It was on sale. This is the PD Movie Live Air 3 Smart. There are two different versions. There's a Live Air 3, which is just a wireless focusing system, like a wireless follow focus system. And then the Live Air 3 Smart, which is what I have. This is the LiDAR autofocusing system. There's a difference, so make sure you don't purchase the wrong one, because I accidentally did that at first. But that is why I have the small rig NATO 215mm clamp on the top of my camera. So it just mounts like this. I use the included tool that's on the cage to line up the back, just so I can make sure I'm putting this thing in the same position every single time. I'm fluffing right now. Oh my gosh. Here we go. Do it just like that. Push it back, and we'll tighten this down. And there we go. So now I have the PD Movie Live Air 3 Smart attached to the lens. And this is my main rig. I mean, if I'm going out and I just want a small minimal setup, I'll pretty much be running this most of the time, because as you can see, it's pretty compact, and I still get all the features that I might need from the S9. Usually when I'm packing it up, I need to take off the PD Movie, just because it does stick up a little bit, but it doesn't take much time at all to just attach this on here, tighten it, and then turn it on and start focusing. Now, to address this cold shoe on the side, that's where I would use the Hollyland. This is the Hollyland Lark M2, I think that's what this is. I can't remember. If I'm running it in this setup, I'll just attach the Hollyland to the cold shoe on the S9, and then attach this to the audio jack. And now, I guess more accurately, this is my run and gun setup if I need audio as well. If I'm going out to film myself, this is pretty much what you'll be seeing. The only other thing that I'll add is the filter system. So I have two filter systems that I use. For the most part, though, I am using this the system by Freewell. This is their variable ND version 2. But I also have the Nissi JetMag Pro system. The JetMag Pro system is great, but the only issue that I have with it is only available in solid NDs and not variable NDs. So yes, the performance from these will be better, more color accurate than a variable ND filter, but having the ability to have a variable ND filter just is so convenient for me, especially when I'm just going out and I need to film quickly. I don't want to have to mess around with changing NDs. Essentially, I just want to be able to use a variable ND system just because it's faster and more convenient, and I don't mind sacrificing a little bit of color accuracy. With all that being said, though, the Freewell ND system is fantastic in terms of the color accuracy that I'm getting from it. My only gripe, though, is the mounting system. It uses these like really flimsy knobs that you turn to tighten it on the actual ring that's included. It is magnetic, which is nice, but you still need to tighten it down to fully secure it. And my main issue that I have with it is, again, these flimsy little knobs. I don't know if you can see, but it kind of just jiggles. One of these that I have has now bent, and so tightening it doesn't tighten in properly. It kind of like spins around as I'm tightening it, which is a huge advantage of the JetMag Pro system because it is just fully magnetic, and you just twist it to lock. It's not going to come off when you want to take it off. You twist it, take it off. So again, I do find myself using this more often than the JetMag Pro system from Nissi, but it is a bit wonky at times. Now the only other thing, I don't know where it is actually, can't remember where I put it. The only other thing that I would add for this is I've been using their Snow Mist 1/4. It's just a diffusion filter on the front. It is also magnetic, and I really like the images that I've been able to get using this full setup. Now officially, this is the full setup that I've been using for the majority of my videos. So with this, I obviously have the camera, the lens, now autofocus with a cinema lens. I have my audio solution and my ND solution. So again, for the most part, this is what I'll be running for most of my stuff. But if I am, say, here, for instance, if I was normally filming a video like this using my S9, I would be rigging this up a bit more, and I'll show you what I do for that. So this is my monitor slash top handle solution. Don't really want to take this apart because I don't ever take this apart. This is essentially how this setup lives. So first thing I have is the Nitsi handle. I don't know exactly the name. Again, everything, I guess I haven't mentioned this, but everything will be linked in the description. It is an affiliate link, so I will get a cut, but it doesn't cost you any extra. So yeah, this is the Nitsi top handle. It's a NATO rail, it's a NATO top handle. That's why I have this up here. It works really well. What I like about it is it's like really beefy, and the fact that it is a NATO clamp is really, really convenient. Next I have the small rig, just some small rig monitor mount. I also have a small rig NATO monitor mount, but I like having, if I'm gonna run a monitor, I want a top handle, and I'll get into the reason why in just a second. I then have the Viltrox DC-X2 monitor. This is a 6-inch monitor. I knew that was going to be loud. This is a 6-inch monitor. It works really, really well. I've been really enjoying my time using it. It's also touchscreen, which is great. And finally, this little, I guess 2 more things. I have a small rig full-size HDMI to micro HDMI, because that's what the S9 uses. And now, finally, I have the small rig cable organizer. I have 1 small rig cable organizer on here. They come in a pack of 4 or 5, I can't remember, one of those 2. But it's really nice to be able to just like clamp this guy in place. One thing I want to mention, this video is not sponsored by SmallRig in any way, shape, or form. I purchased everything on my own. I just like their products, so I find myself using them and purchasing them quite often. So yeah, we're going to slide this thing on. Here we go. I like lining this up so it's perfectly in line with the lens. I will tighten this down. And then as you can see, I route my HDMI underneath the 15mm rod. And then I can plug this in to the side of the camera. And now this is where this small rig cold shoe comes into play. Because whenever I have this monitor on, I can't actually mount this as comfortably as I want to. It just sticks out because the handle actually blocks it. So that's why I have the small rig guy right here. Push that down to tighten it. And then I can plug this in, and there we go. I'm just gonna lift this up, just kind of tuck that in the cold shoe, and that's pretty much it. This is my more built out rig, I guess you could say. This is the bigger setup. Like I said, most of the time if I'm filming myself here, this is what I'll be using, because what it allows me to do is it allows me to flip the monitor around and see myself. Or if I'm going out and I want just I guess a bigger setup, this is again what I'll be using. The handle is really nice. It's like I said earlier, it's really beefy, it's really big, but in a good way, and it has a ton of different mounting points, so if you do want to add more things to this, you have that ability. I've also seen people flip this around and mount the monitor on the front, which in a perfect world is what I would do. The only issue is I can't flip this around because of the PD Movie Live Air 3 system, because if I try to do that, the end of this actually interferes. It bumps into the PD Movie, which means I can't actually attach it backwards. And the reason why I'd want to attach it backwards is just for, I guess, comfortability and the center of gravity of this rig. It's really front heavy. And with the handle being a little bit further back, it kind of means I have to have my wrist engaged the entire time I'm holding it. And so if the handle could be flipped around and so it was more centered in the rig, it would probably be a little bit more comfortable. If I'm running a monitor, I literally have to use this this handle. That's the reason why I don't use the small rig monitor mount that has the NATO attachment. And the reason behind that, or the reason is because of where the S9 has the HDMI placed. I get that they needed a small camera, and I guess if the S9 was, or the HDMI was positioned on this side of the camera, when you open the screen, it would be severely blocking the screen. And you know, this camera is positioned for content creators and people who just want, I guess, an easy camera to create videos with. So I understand why they wouldn't want the screen to be blocked, but it is a bit annoying sometimes having, I mean, it's just annoying because I literally cannot use the grip. If I want to use a monitor, I have to use a top handle, which again isn't necessarily an issue, but if I want to keep the rig small, I have no choice but to use the handle if I want to run a monitor, because this part of the camera is just unusable. The other thing that kind of scares me is I can't find any good solutions to add an HDMI clamp to this side. I mean, with a small rig cage, there's no mounting points. So I guess I could add some, I could like rig out something that would allow me to add an HDMI clamp. But then the issue with that becomes the issue is like I would just be making the rig even bigger, which is not necessarily what I want to do. So this is not a review of this camera. Again, that's in the next video. I just kind of want to tell you about a gripe that I have with this whole setup when using a monitor. So yeah, that is essentially it. I don't think I missed anything. Yeah, here we go. This is the rig that I've been using now, like I mentioned earlier, for the past like 2-ish months. I have a lot more ideas for projects that I want to create with it. I've been having a lot of fun with this setup, and I think as of right now, this is probably the rig that I'll be sticking with for a while. Again, we have my more built-up rig, and then it's very, very easy for me to strip this down to be, you know, a smaller, more minimal rig by just simply taking off the monitor, and then if I want to, I can then relocate the Hollyland audio system to the top cold shoe. Now I have access to the handle again, but I still have the autofocus from here, and yeah, that's it. I mean, this is, again, like I already mentioned, it's been such a fun setup to use. I feel really inspired to create using it, and the S9 I feel like is a very underrated camera. I know that it got a lot of hate when it first got released, and I think some of it was warranted in terms of their like record limit and all that stuff, but there's been an update that has now removed that record limit, and you know, you're essentially getting an S5 but smaller, or an S5 II but smaller, which is what I love so much about this camera. The image quality is outstanding. It's beautiful, it's fantastic, and it's such a fun camera to use. So again, this is not the review video. This is kind of part 2 in a 3-part series. The first one was color grading the footage from my S9. That video is already uploaded. If you're interested in checking that out, I'll leave that in the card in the like whenever the video's over. It'll pop up over my face. I'll also leave a link to that in the description below. This video, obviously, is about building the filmmaking setup, and the next video, which will be coming out in a couple days, is going to be my review / first impressions of this whole setup. I'm mostly going to be focusing on the camera and the lens itself, not necessarily on the other components, because I do think these are the 2 most important things. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, if you are interested in picking up any of these products, there will be Amazon affiliate links in the description below. It won't cost you any extra, but you know, it will. I will, you know, get a little bit on the back end. And yeah, if you guys like this video, if you guys like the work or the clips that I showed you, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you want to see more of my work that's not here on YouTube, I will leave my Instagram on the screen right now, as well as a link to my website and my Instagram in the description below. And I think that's it. On that note, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you very soon for the first impressions video about this camera. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.